themselves? Like what makes them good? Like what makes them cool? Like they all basically do the same thing. They got the phone cards, and you buy their SIM cards that you put into your phone, and that gives you the number. So that was basically it. And so they got these little like these goofy commercials you'll hear on the radio all this time, like with little kids like screaming and dancing kind of thing. And that's kind of fun. I like that. Vodafone doesn't do so much of that. Vodafone's a little more standard, a little more professional. But like I know Kasapa, like when you dial, it always does like the little like jingle as you're listening in the ringer. It's like din din din, Kasapa, nin nin nin, something like that. So it was kind of fun. I enjoyed how they do that. And MTN, they have kids like saying some cool thing while you're waiting for your friend to pick up. The kids will be saying like, "Oh, look at the sky. See how beautiful it is. Tell your friend how beautiful the sky is. Call them up with MTN." Or something like that. So really different marketing strategies, really different ways to promote it and everything. So I was always very astonished about what's going on, how popular it is. Actually, many of these mobile phone companies, we have these big like base stations in these forests around where like Verizon's satellite communications are and things like that. Well, these companies, they have these little tiny base stations right in the city. So they have to ask people who are living in the city next to these base stations that, yo, is it cool if we do this? Is it cool if we have these base stations? And yeah, if it's cool as far as the radiation goes, that's the thing. Radiation can be a killer, it can hurt people. So you gotta make sure that's good, but you'll see a lot of these little mini base stations all throughout the city. But you gotta look hard, because there's so much to see in the city, as you kind of saw from that little African intro I had going on for you all. So, technology changing the way cassava is planted. I ate a lot of cassava. It's very tasty, and you get to eat it with your hands, which is really cool. Fish, some cassava, and some pepper sauce, and you eat it, and num num, very good. So, in order to plant this tasty cassava, farmers gotta know what's going on. They gotta know the rain, the weather, I should say. They gotta know the commodity prices. What's selling right now? What's not? What should I focus my resources on? This technology helps them with that. It gives them a heads up when they're growing, so they can become more efficient. That's a lot of what these agri-loans are doing. They're allowing these farmers to have this kind of technology and these kind of like mobile data plans. Actually, I was just reading an article, Mike and I were reading it, about mobile data plans and how the rates are getting lower and lower and lower and more affordable. So you can actually get 1 gigabyte of data for a month on the MTN network for $21. $21 for 1 gigabyte. So that's pretty good. It's not bad right there. It's pretty solid. So you might get $30 unlimited on Verizon, but hey, that's not so bad if you're only doing so much. So it's getting more and more affordable actually, which is a really interesting trend, giving farmers an extra heads up, because a lot of farmers have a lot of trouble. They only sell locally and they only make small profits. It's really hard to make it a big, well-infrastructured industry. A lot of companies, there's actually a whole society or whole organization in Africa, ECOWAS, trying to make it farming more and more prevalent so that people can eat and not starve as much, because a lot of people starve in Africa, which is not good. Should not be happening. So as you can see, live updates to farmers, commodity prices, SMS messaging, and weather. Okay, so here is one of my favorite parts, marketing. So I'm sure you listen to everything Andrew Setti or any of your other marketing professors have told you, but things are a little different when you travel to Africa. So I'm gonna let you guys know what's different, so you can know what to look for when you're over there, So let's see it. This is a different style than the US, of course. I just mentioned that. It's industry sensitive depending on what you're selling. Make sure you're selling it to the right person for the right cause. If it's banking, sell it a little more professional style. But if it's like Coke, you can do whatever you want. Coke has a much different marketing strategy, as you'll see. So there's guerrilla techniques and the focus on the people. So guerrilla techniques in the sense that you'll see advertisements everywhere, all strewn out throughout the city, and you're not even expecting them, but they're all over on posts, electronic posts, walls, everywhere you go. These ads are everywhere. It's amazing how popular it is. Just like in signs, it looks like it's like politics or something, but it's actually just advertisements for things. So it's really hyper competitive in a lot of different industries. So you really got to differentiate yourself with your marketing. So it's actually, here's the main difference that I saw. It's the focus on the people is the main difference. So they try and center on happy people to be this primary focus of the ad. Not so much the product. The product is bringing them happiness and joy. And instead of focusing on the product, the ad will focus on the human and how happy they are when they use it. Because people, they really like being happy. They love to laugh and they like to feel good. So that's like what a lot of the primary marketing ads are all about. So very, very interesting stuff. So like if you're like driving down the road and you have a GPS in your car, and that's the advertisement, is this dude driving with a GPS. In America, they might focus more on the GPS and all the cool things it's doing for the dude. But in Ghana, they might focus on the GPS as helping the dude be really happy. And the story's more about the dude than the GPS. So there's a much more focus on the people. You'll kind of see that for yourself. It's really like a different medium, a lot of different types. But it's very interesting. I'll have some examples for you a little later on here. And of course, the importance of art and traditions. Like I mentioned, people have very traditional values. And if they can buy something that like kind of shows the world like who they are and what they're all about, like they'll really go for that. So like sticking to the tribe, sticking to the symbols, sticking to like family, things like that. Trying to keep the family involved is a huge marketing focus of these emerging companies in Africa fighting for business in this hyper-competitive world. So, we're on the topic of marketing. Let's go to another question. What country is home to Africa's largest city? We're narrowing down the focus. So I'll give you all about 20 seconds or so. Time's up. The djembe has stopped playing. And we are moving on to the answer. Let's see who the shining stars are as we continue the Straight to the Roots Ultimate Challenge. It's Egypt. Cairo, Egypt. 17 million people right around there. Huge, huge sprawling metropolis, as you can see in this picture. And you also see a lot of technology here. There's a lot of satellites that people use to connect for their TV, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of technology going on. Actually, Lagos in Nigeria, the most populous country, Lagos, the city, is actually, it's poised to surpass Cairo in population pretty soon in the coming years. So there's something to keep in mind. All right, I told you I was going to give you an example of some marketing strategies in Ghana, in Africa. This one's in Ghana, and it's about a phone company called Tigo. So when you're watching this, notice the different style, something you probably wouldn't usually see in the US, and notice like the final slogan lines at the end. So I'll let you all watch this right now. Hopefully Mike can pause myself, and then we can come back and talk about it. So you can pause me now. Okay, so I'm hoping I'm unpaused. I'm hoping that this technology working logistically worked. Who knows? I've been having some trouble myself here, but we're good. So you just saw the video, and that was about Tigo, a phone company, and they're saying like, hey Charlie, that use Tigo, it's got better service essentially. And then it says, Tigo, the network that actually works. Yes. So interesting, the network that actually works. Like, what are they talking about? Well, I'll tell you what they're talking about. Hopefully you're on the slide with the Vodacom picture, the big advertisement in Accra, the city, and then read the top. It says, experience the network that works. So that's Vodafone's thing. And then Tigo just swoop it in and just be like, experience the network that actually works. What up? So I don't think you usually see things that are like that intense, like that targeted at another company in America. You don't really see that. Like, who knows? Like, Tigo could get sued for that here in America, but like, they're not in Ghana. They're just owning it and they're doing it. So don't be afraid to get a little funky with your marketing. So we're moving on. I got some cool pictures here of some more marketing going on in Ghana. So we on the top left, we got EasyWitch on this bus. This is the first POS system, point of sales electronic debiting system that they're trying to install, like bring about to be more common in Ghana. and not a lot of people are using it. It's very difficult. It tries to link to a bank account, but a lot of people don't even have their money in the banks, believe it or not. It's only like the people with lots and lots of money, or like the higher, more wealthy people have the money in the banks. So it's actually not that great for people right now, because they don't have electronic banking right now. So it's actually having a lot of trouble. They're having trouble like installing it. They have a lot of technology problems right now. POS is a downer in Ghana right now, but they're working on it. So we'll see. In the top right, you can see two ads. You see MTN South Africa. So MTN, one of the phone companies, is the official sponsor of South Africa World Cup 2010, which is pretty amazing. Pretty good right there. So all of Africa was seeing MTN like every time they watched the World Cup. It's great strategy. Pretty simple. Just says like, we can't wait for Africa, South Africa 2010. So pretty cool. Like, digs a lot of people's feelings right there. You also see Boost, and this is satchels of hard liquor. So for those of you alcohol enthusiasts, that's the stuff that you want to be drinking. It's really cheap and it's really intense. And I had some once and it was intense, I will say. I'll leave it at that. Actually, a lot of the beer there, if you're drinking beer in Ghana, you're going to get a big bottle. Like 750 milliliters of goodness. And it's usually 6.25% alcohol by volume. So, yeah, it is very, very intense. Like 2 beers, and you're usually pretty good. And it's like, let's say $2 a beer at a bar. So, not so bad. Not so bad if you want to go party. Maybe go to Africa to party instead of do business. You can get that going on there, too. All right, we're talking about Coke now. And this says Coca-Cola for Christ. Yeah, something you don't usually see in the U.S. either. A lot of people have those traditional values, and a lot of people are Christians, so this is what Coke's trying to do, is trying to say that, like, yo, this is like Coke for Jesus. Like, who wouldn't want to drink this amazing beverage? So, interesting ploy there. And also, a lot of these phone companies, usually the phone companies, but all sorts of companies, but most of the time I see mobile phones, they talk to these villagers who have houses bordering the main roads all throughout Ghana. And they offer them some money in exchange for these people's houses to be painted any color that Vodafone chooses. So of course Vodafone's going to choose red and just say Vodafone all over it. So you'll be like driving through this town like, oh, we're finally here. We're in Hohoe. And yes, it's just covered with Vodafone everywhere. Which is, it's okay, like, that's just the way it is, but just like an interesting thing that people have going on there. So you'll see all sorts of advertisements in that regard. So there's another guerrilla marketing technique. All right, supply chain. You got to know what's good. When you got your goods, you know what industry you want to go in, now you got to send them maybe or something like that. So I just want to give you an idea of like the transportation infrastructure and like how safe it is. So here we go. There's a lot of border checks and customs. I know that those can be a little unsafe, especially in the violent countries right now. There's some violence going on. I know in Somalia and Sudan and in some of the southern deserts of Algeria, you'll also see some violence. So especially when you're traveling over there, a lot of some East African countries right now are a little dangerous. So be sure to check in on where you're going. Not everywhere is just a wonderful paradise where everyone accepts you. You got to be careful when you're traveling around shipping your goods. So there's violence. You also want the right mix of goods. Make sure you don't want to send everything sometimes. You got to pick which ones to send, which ones not to. What's the most profitable for you? There's also some hijacking hotspots all throughout. So you also got to be careful in that regard. It's actually pretty rare from what I hear of this hijacking, but it does happen. So you definitely got to be in a pretty good place when you're doing this. Yes. So I was actually at a border check from Ghana to Burkina Faso, and it was wild. It was very busy, lots of trucks not moving, lots of slow movement. So you also got to wage, like maybe sometimes it might take a day to get through this border check or like customs check. So it can be really intense. So there's your little supply chain know-how for everybody. Okay, and here's my little tips I got for everybody. You got to think about the supply chain of everything when you're doing business in Africa. So we're talking about street food, and like I said, it's really cost effective, and usually it's really tasty. But you got to ask yourself, what supply chain process does this meal undergo, essentially? So, yeah, if this food is coming from the streets, if it's coming from far away, and it's just sitting on this plate with dust going all around it for a while,